Go Free lesson of the day. Ladies and gentlemen, the concepts are the concepts that we use to talk about ourselves, our past, our future, our present. Are they more important than the history that we pass on? To speak to that, we will open up tangentially Go Free Edition 2, Iteration 2. Page 215, the mean pathogen. Race doesn't exist. How many of you have heard race doesn't exist in any of its numerous iterations? I mean, it's everywhere, isn't it? There are various iterations. Race is a construct. There was no such thing as the white race. There are just ethnicities. And then when you narrow an anti-white down, they say, well, there aren't even white ethnicities. They've not done anything. They've not created anything. They really like anti-whites, smarter anti-whites, like us to discuss ethnicities because they like the idea of being able to turn the ethnicities of the white race against each other. One of the main reasons why we need to come together on the basis of our biosphere and acknowledge that we are born men and women of the West. We have the biospirit of the West inside of us. We don't have our ethnicity. We are not a religion. We are not a citizen. We are not a patriot of a particular country. We are not a fan of a particular flag. We are the children of the West. That's how we are born. We are the same. And you can see that sameness, even in its variation, the variegation of that expression across the globe, in its differentiation between the peoples of man. That's how you know that we are the same. But we get this mean pathogen that there is no white race. There is no race at all. It doesn't exist. There's only the human race. That's another MP associated with this one. We never use that. There's no such thing as a human race. That is another tool of control for the anti-whites. What do we say back to them, to ourselves, if we hear this MP inside of our own head? One of our suggestions here is the MC, quote, you wish it didn't. You wish that race didn't exist. Because if that were true, it would make it easier for you to victimize Western kind. This is a very swift flip that I've used many times with anti-whites. It immediately shuts down their affected arrogance of, I know science, and science says there's no such thing as race. It immediately flips it around. We immediately begin a conversation about how anti-white they are. They have to prove to me that they're not anti-white. And so I suggest that you either use that MC specifically when confronted with there is no race, race doesn't exist, the white race doesn't exist, the name white race didn't start existing until this date or whatever. It's totally immaterial. If the white race started calling itself dandelions, that would be, you could say at this point, they started calling themselves dandelions. It still indicates something specific. You can also go the route with your meme curative of just agreeing with the anti-white and saying, fine, it's a construction, just like so many sexualities, just like everything is a construction, and we choose this construct and we defend it. We are going to protect the little white constructs from your villainous anti-whiteism. But I'd like to immediately turn it around on them and point out that they wish there was no such thing as race and therefore the potential for peoplehood, because that makes it much easier to victimize atomized white people. They have no race. They're just a victim floating around in space, waiting for the anti-white to prey upon them. What does this mean or how does this interact with. Our question for today's lesson: what's more important, the concepts or the history? Should be pretty obvious, the direction we're going for this class, that our history could be anything and nothing. We could rewrite the whole thing. It could be pure fiction. And we could create our history all over again. All we ever create is our history. It renews as long as our people are preserved. That story in the world exists in us before it exists in the world. Knowing our history was something that we did like gangbusters a long time ago. And it didn't protect us from anti-whiteism in its various forms, and certainly this form. So when you cross paths with an advocate, a pro-white advocate, who says that what's most important is the history, you've got to teach them all the history. You've got to be able to address that in the conversation. The history is a tool to the living. It's not something outside of us. If the creator wants to look down and say X, Y, and Z about things that happened in the past, so be it. The rest of what happened in the past is up for our interpretation in service to the well-being of the present. Go back to the Jewish child I talked about a little earlier, who laterally thought himself into a much bigger Slurpee than everybody else got for free. We have to be this agile. Maybe not all of us are, but you have to be bright enough then to choose the leadership, your personal leadership, for who can lead you and our people to a productive, salubrious place. The history is infinitely less important than the concepts we use to talk about ourselves, our past, our present, and our future. So if it hadn't already occurred to you, and many, obviously in this community it has, how vital, how profound, how necessary these concepts are, then it should settle in a little bit more deeply now. You can erase all of our history, Alexander the Great. You can erase all of our Spanish-American War. You can erase all of it. And if we have our concepts, we can be a people. And if we're a people, we will recreate it all. It will all live again. And as I said, if we're intelligent, if our leaders are intelligent, we will craft that history, the interpretation of it, to satisfy the well-being of the living. You can imagine white people, because you've met them, maybe even you broke this rule in the past, who had an interpretation of history, of this part or that part of history, that you either realized within yourself or you saw in someone else, was an interpretation that was detrimental to us and our well-being today. There should never be such a conclusion, ever. With the right concepts, you can't arrive at the wrong conclusion. Without the concepts, you can very easily come to a conclusion about an objective truth about history that you are certain, you're absolutely certain. And what a shame it is that it undermines us today. Darn it. No, nothing should get in the way of our well-being. Nothing. No matter what it is. The Creator created us because He wants us to be. It is our duty to do everything within our ability, everything with our creativity, everything that we are capable and maybe even think we are incapable of today, to preserve His creation. If the Creator did not want Western civilization, he would not have made Western kind. It is your duty to our Lord. It is your duty, if you believe there is no Creator or potentially no Creator, it is our duty to our well-being and the well-being of our offspring and our future to view all of these matters in this light and to submit every interpretation to those concepts. This is something I realized many years ago, and I tried to communicate to so many people over the years. Sad to say, the white race isn't in a good state, and many couldn't appreciate it. Thank God you all have heard the Sylvan trumpets, because I know you can get it.